Hello little friends, welcome back to our channel, Wisdom for Kids. I'm so glad you're here with me today. In our last episode, we heard something beautiful. God took Abram outside, showed him the stars, and said, "That's how many children you will have." And Abram believed God even though he didn't have a child yet. But today, we're going to learn what happens when people try to make God's promise come true in their own way. Sometimes, when we don't want to wait, we rush ahead and it causes problems. Today's story is called Hagar and Ishmael from Genesis chapter 16. Let's begin. Episode 14, Hagar and Ishmael, Genesis chapter 16. Many years had passed since God first spoke to Abram. God had promised Abram a son, but Abram and his wife Sarai were still waiting, and now they were getting very old. Too old to have children, they thought. Sarai began to feel worried. Maybe she would never be a mother. Maybe the promise had to come another way. So she came up with a plan, her own plan. In Genesis 16:2, Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my servant. Maybe I can build a family through her." Now, in those days, people sometimes used servants to have children if the wife couldn't. But this was not God's plan. This was Sarai's idea, and it was based on fear, not faith. Sadly, Abram agreed. He didn't ask God what to do. He listened to Sarai, and he went along with the plan. Genesis 16:2-3. So Abram took Sarai's servant, Hagar, and she became pregnant. At first, this seemed like it worked, but then things got messy. When Hagar found out she was going to have a baby, she began to look down on Sarai, and Sarai became angry and jealous. She blamed Abram and treated Hagar badly. Genesis 16:4-6. Hagar felt hurt and alone, so she ran away into the desert. Can you imagine how scared she felt? She was alone. She was expecting a baby. She had no home and no help. But then, something amazing happened. Genesis 16:7 says, "The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. God saw her. The angel said, 'Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?' Hagar answered honestly, 'I'm running away from Sarai.' And the angel gave her a message from God. He said, 'Go back to Sarai and submit to her. I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too many to count.' Genesis 16:9-10. Then the angel told her, 'You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery.' Genesis 16:11. The name Ishmael means God hears. Even though Hagar had run away, even though she was part of a broken plan, God still saw her, and God still cared. Hagar was amazed. She said, 'You are the God who sees me.' Genesis 16:13. And that's true for us too. God sees us wherever we are. When we feel hurt, or forgotten, or lost, God is near. So Hagar returned home. She gave birth to a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Genesis 16:15. But this was not the child God had promised. Ishmael would grow into a strong people, but he was not the chosen heir. God still had a plan, and he was still going to do something even more amazing in his time. Today, we learned that when we try to make things happen our own way, it can lead to problems. Sarai and Abram didn't wait on God's timing. They made a plan, but it wasn't God's plan. And it brought hurt to everyone. But even in the middle of the mess, God was kind. He saw Hagar, he heard her cries, and he promised to care for her and her son. When you're waiting for something, a prayer, a hope, a dream, remember this: God doesn't forget. He always keeps his promises. But sometimes he asks us to wait. And when waiting feels hard, we can talk to him, because just like Hagar, we can say, "You are the God who sees me." See you next time, friends. In our next episode, God will appear to Abram again and give him a new name, a new sign, and a promise that's closer than ever. Good night and sleep tight.